One thing I've learned about being online is that if you're mixed race, the haters will come flocking.
It is a mongrel, a threat to our survival.
I'm El Mulaton, and in this video, I'm going to respond to the haters who commented on one of my videos. I stated that the term mulatto is not outdated, and man did they disagree. Let's watch the video. So I'm told that I shouldn't identify as a mulatto because the word is outdated, and yet when we look at the census and other historical records, it turns out that the terms white and black are older than the word mulatto. So how can it be that white and black are acceptable, but mulatto is outdated even though it's a newer word? Come on, we all know why. They do not want us to be independent. We cannot be allowed to have our own identity. So they come up with these goofy excuses for why we can't be who we are, mulattos. Okay, so the first hater says, it's your right to ID as you choose. Sounds like erasure to me. Solidarity. And right there with that last word, you know what he means. You know he does not mean solidarity with us. For these people, solidarity works one way. It is a one-way street. It's us having to adopt their goals and their ambitions. It's us having to essentially submit to them. There's no such thing as them having solidarity with us. They're not going to fight our cause. They don't even care what issues we may have going on. It's all about them. And I'm not even sure what he's talking about when he says erasure. Like, who are we trying to erase? We're not saying that you can't have your own identity. I'm assuming this person is black identified. Me identifying as a mulatto does not erase anybody. It is me having my own identity. And it's actually quite the opposite. If you're telling me I must identify as black, it's you trying to erase my identity and adopt yours. Or at the very least, you're saying that the black identity should be my primary identity, and any other mixed race identity I have, yeah, you can have that, but those come second. That's not how this works. I'm not going to do that. My racial identity is mulatto, nothing else. Not black, not white, nothing else. And you can tell where this guy leans politically. He's literally got antifascista in his profile pic. Oh, okay, next hater. It means mule, meaning half human essentially. Same as where mutt came from. Okay, so this is a big counter argument against people identifying as mulatto. And notice all of these arguments are essentially meant to shame you from identifying as mulatto, or they're trying to put some kind of guilt trip on you for identifying that way. It's never about them actually listening to you, listening to your reasons, and then respecting it. No, I have to listen to your reasons why you identify one way, and then I have to respect that, but you can't do the same for me. And we all know why. It's for politics. They want political power. So to address this argument specifically, this is a proposed origin of the word mulatto, that it came from mule. I should say it came from mula in Spanish, which translates as mule in English, but that mula then came from Latin, which was mulus. Again, this is not a 100% confirmed etymology of the word. This is merely a proposed origin. And I've already mentioned this on a previous video, but I will repeat this 11 million times if I have to, so that people can get it in their head. There is another proposed origin of the word mulatto, and that origin is from Arabic, the word muwalad. And even whenever you look in Arabic dictionaries, modern Arabic dictionaries, you will see the word muwalad translated to mulatto. So what's the story from there? The story from there is that the Arabic-speaking Moors conquered the Iberian Peninsula, modern-day Spain and Portugal. They then introduced this word among many Arabic words into the Spanish language. For those of you who don't know, Spanish has a ton of Arabic words in it because of the Muslim conquest of Iberia. And muwalad is one of those words that entered the Spanish language. Now, obviously, like what happens with most loan words, muwalad became Hispanicized and it became muladi. So muwalad originally in Arabic meant someone of mixed ancestry, right? And so whenever it was imported into the Spanish language, it still had that meaning, someone of mixed ancestry. And shortly after, the Spanish were able to push out all of the Arabic-speaking Moors out of Iberia and retake Spain, they then discovered America. They came to America, they conquered the land, they brought with them slaves, and they brought with them the word muladi. And the word muladi then became mulatto, referring to people of mixed Spanish and West African ancestry. Now, you don't have to accept that origin of the term. And a lot of you probably will not, because you want the origin of the word to be mule, because you think that's denigrating. You think that's gonna be a good tactic of getting mulattoes to stop identifying as mulattoes and just shut the hell up and identify as black and do as they're told. One of the things you have to realize with language is that it is not a hard science. It's not like there's an experiment you can conduct to figure out with 100% certainty that the origin of the word is X or Y. Okay, there's one proposed definition, which is mule, and then there's another one which was muwalad, coming from Arabic meaning mixed. Now, there are a lot of people who kind of come at this attack a little bit differently. Renata Mulata is one person who addresses this issue in a different manner. So her line of thinking, if I'm not mistaken, is essentially, yes, it came from mule, but it is not inherently derogatory. It is not inherently negative, because this person in this comment is saying meaning half human. Since when does mule mean half human? Mule means like half horse, half donkey. The person that made this comment is assuming that if you reference an animal when describing a person, it is inherently bad. But as we know, that is not the case. Look how many sports teams have animal names. Look at all the fans in the stands that call themselves the Dolphins, okay? You're telling me that's derogatory? And as I've said many times before, we constantly refer to people as animals. We've got entire like Native American tribes and their names are animals, like Big Paw or Walks with Bear. So Renata Mulata's argument is that just because they made a reference to an animal doesn't mean it was inherently negative. And I tend to agree. We don't know what was going in their heads when they came up with this. I'll also add that it was the Spanish that came up with this word, and the Spanish word for gentleman is caballero. Caballo means horse. So literally the word gentleman comes from the word horse. Caballo, caballero. Okay, let's move on to the next hater. It's considered outdated because when and how it was used, just like colored. Either way, no one is stopping anyone from using or being defined that way. And my response here was black was used the same way as mulatto. If mulatto is outdated, so is black and people of color. All three terms appear in the 1860 census, which I cited in the video. And yes, in the video, I show you a snippet from the 1860 census where it shows the term black. The term black predates the word mulatto. So how can you say one is outdated but the other one is just fine? And when I say that black was used the same way as mulatto, I'm talking about the use of the word as a descriptor. If you were, let's say you're a racist from that time period, and you really want to just yell out a racial slur to express your hate for someone, you're not gonna say the word black. We all know what word that person is going to use. They're not gonna use the word black. All right? The word black is a neutral descriptor that you put on formal documentation. All right? Same with mulatto. Mulatto was not used as an insult. At least I have yet to see any evidence of mulatto being used specifically as a racial slur, because it seems to always be coupled in with neutral descriptors like white, black. Okay? You're not going to see the actual N-word on the census. That would be highly unprofessional, wouldn't it? So on a professional document, you're going to use a neutral descriptor. And that's what they did with mulatto. Mulatto was just what you are. It was a description. If you believe it was an insult, show me evidence of this. Because almost all the evidence we have of mulatto, it's almost always being used just in a neutral manner. And so I also said if mulatto is outdated, so is black and people of color. And this is true. Black is older. And also people of color. I'm not talking about colored people, like the commenter, like the hater mentioned. I'm specifically talking about the term people of color. This term was used in the slavery days. Okay, a lot of you people like to appeal to the slavery days and say that if a word was used back then well, we can't use it anymore. But yet you people are still using the words black and people of color. In fact, it's considered appropriate to call someone a POC, a person of color. It's the same terms that were being used in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. when people were enslaved. So this hater commented back and said, Black, white, Asian, etc. will never be outdated because it's a general classification used globally. Mulatto is by definition is outdated, which means no longer in use. So you saying 1860 supports that claim. Okay. I'm assuming this person lives in a bubble. This person has never experienced any kind of life or read a book. How can you say that any word will never be outdated? Like, you do realize there are entire languages that are dead. There are entire languages that are no longer in use anymore. And I'm not even referring to languages like Latin that just kind of evolved into other modern languages. I'm talking about languages that never evolved and just completely stopped and are no longer in use. They no longer exist, but you're telling me that these words are never going to be outdated. Just because the use of a word is ubiquitous doesn't mean it will never be outdated. It will never fall out of use. That's absurd. And then the next part, mulatto is by definition outdated, which means no longer in use. I'm literally a person speaking to you right now using the term, and you're telling me it's no longer in use. I'm literally using it, okay? And the fact that I referenced 1860, that's... it didn't stop in 1860. Like, it kept on going, right? I don't know the exact date when mulatto was taken off of the census, but it was in the 20th century. So even like the early part of the 20th century, mulatto was still, at least formally, in use on the US Census, but also colloquially, it's been used since then, up until now. And also, I get it, maybe you're American, so you're only thinking about the American context, but there's a world outside of America. Mulatto is a Spanish word, and in many Spanish-speaking countries, mulatto is still in use. There are still people identifying as mulatto outside of America, but also in America. I'm one of them, and there's a lot of us. There are a lot of us who identify as mulatto. So your claim that it is no longer in use and therefore by definition outdated is just false, because it's still in use, and I don't even agree with that definition of outdated. But let's use it. By your definition, then it's not outdated. And to give you some examples of other people who agree with me, who identify the same as I do, we've got Jen. She says, proud to be mulatto. I guess it's no longer in use. It's no longer in use, therefore it's outdated. We've also got Renata Mulata, who I referenced earlier. She says, also, we are not the ones who determine the offensiveness of the term. The notion that mulatto is offensive is an external perception forced onto us against our interest. Exactly. In the majority of cases, more often than not, if someone is telling you that mulatto is offensive, they're not someone that would ever qualify to identify as mulatto. They're usually going to be a full-blooded black person. They're going to be some white liberal person. And even when it is someone who would qualify to be a mulatto, they've usually been conditioned to just accept the black label, the black identity, and essentially deny like half of themselves. So when people are telling us that the word is offensive, the question to ask is offensive to whom? The label, the word, the term applies to me. You are observing me actively identifying with that term, and you're telling me it's offensive. My use of the term is enough to tell you that no, it is not offensive to me. That is who it matters to. When these people tell you it's offensive and therefore you should stop identifying as mulatto, what they are saying is that, hey, other people find the term offensive, so you have to submit to what they think and abandon your identity. And it's almost never the case, hey, just choose a different word. That would be a slightly more respectable position, but it's almost never that. It's, hey, abandon this term and just identify as black. Make life easier for me. I don't want to live in a world where people are like mixed race. I only want there to be black and whites. So to me and other people, we identify with this word and we do not find it offensive. So stop telling us that you find it offensive. We understand, okay? But you don't have to carry this label. This is our identity. And when I said there was a lot of us, I meant it. Look, we even got Mulata Mermaid. She says, yes, thumbs up, okay? Mulatto is not only international. We are interspecies. We've literally got mermaids identifying as mulatas. Tell me we haven't won. All right, that's it for this video. If you like what you heard, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm El Mulaton. I'll catch y'all next time.